Welcome to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast, your guide to future tech trends and innovation in a language you understand. Now, over to your host, Neil Hughes.
Welcome back to another episode of the Tech Blog Writer Podcaster gang. The sun is officially shining here in the UK. No rickets for me, I'm out there getting a bit of vitamin D. And I've even spent a little bit of time away from the computer. Which, hey, it's good for your soul. But there is a subject that I've been reading more and more about recently, and that is the GDPR legislation that's going to hit Europe next year. And if you've not heard of it before, that stands for General Data Protection Regulation. And what I think's ironic here is that at the moment, every business and almost everyone you speak to, especially in the tech industry, is getting incredibly excited about machine learning and artificial intelligence to unlock data. But make no mistake, next year the focus will be on GDPR. Especially considering the penalty for not complying can lead to fines of up to 20 million euros or 4% of global annual turnover. We're not talking 4% of profit here, we're talking 4% of global annual turnover. And if that doesn't get your attention, I really don't know what will. So whether a company is already operating in the European Union or has expansion plans there in the near future, the upcoming GDPR rules will have a profound impact on how all organisations handle, manage and use customer data. So when searching for an expert to talk to about this topic, it occurred to me that way back on episode 205, I talked to the CEO of Dataiku, who at the time had just entered Gartner's Magic Quadrant as a visionary. Now, Florian is somewhat of an expert in this field, so I invited him on the show today to talk about how to structure your company data to meet the demands of GDPR, how a company should prepare for GDPR, and that's even if they don't plan to collect EU customer data, and best practices for data management too. So buckle up, hold on tight, because yesterday I beamed your ears to Athens in Greece, but tonight it's time to beam your ears all the way to Paris, because we're going to speak with Florian from Dataiku about the impending GDPR legislation. So a massive warm welcome back to the show. I mean, I first spoke to you back on, I think it was episode 205. But for anyone that's listening that missed that first episode, can you bring the listeners up to speed with what Dataiku is and a little about yourself and your role there?
Yes, sure. Dataiku is a collaborative platform for data science. So it's a piece of software that you can use to actually help your team focusing on data to better work as a team. And especially we bring together data analysts and data scientists. And so people that are more coming from a visual way of things, reporting, chartings, business intelligence tools, and data scientists, so people that are more coming from the development side of things, statistics and math. And so we build the company because we felt that companies, in order to be successful, need to actually help those business-minded folks and tech-minded folks to better work together. And so I'm the CEO and co-founder of the company.
Now, one of the reasons I invited you back on the show was because this year it seems that everybody's talking about data. There's just no avoiding it at all, whether it be machine learning, artificial intelligence, personalisation, and they all rely on data. And businesses are all jumping on that bandwagon. But not everybody is aware that on May 25th, 2018, next year, the General Data Protection Regulation, GDPR, will come into effect here in the European Union. So whether a company is already operating in the European Union or has expansion plans there in the future, the up-and-coming GDPR rules is going to have a profound impact on how organisations handle, manage and use consumer data. And I know this is a bit of a specialist topic of yours, so can you offer a little background and insight as to what this will mean for businesses that are heavily investing in data warehouses at the moment and unsure what this new legislation will mean to them in real terms, and the fines that are involved as well for not playing ball?
Yeah. GDPR is the big things for anybody involved with data, but I would say more generally for any company involved in doing business in EU, which in fact means almost all the companies in the world, meaning all of which have any international scale. So it's definitely a big thing. And so the GDPR, the specific of GDPR, I guess, are like two main aspects. The first aspect is that you've got real fines this time, meaning any national regulation in France, in the UK, and so it's also the case in the US and in Germany. They have aspects and about things you can do and you cannot do about data, but generally the fines are not so specific, and also they are generally not so easy to apply for non-national entities, meaning that, well, lots of US companies do not consider that they can really have fines per the French regulators related to what they do in France and so on. And so here the fines are set at a pretty high bar, 4% of the revenue. 4%, that's a lot.
Yeah.
If you're Google, it means, well, I don't know even how many dozen of billions. So that's a lot. Not anymore about 100 millions, which is like a drop in the water, meaning it will be actually applied, meaning it seems to. And the second aspect is that it adds a bunch of different constraints on the way you should use data that go beyond simple privacy. So let's say simple privacy was the fact that basically when you were a company holding personal data, you had to take care of it, meaning you wouldn't leak the data and you could have severe fines if you actually publish any personal data about anyone. And that's already true, and that's, well, relatively sane, meaning, but GDPR adds more constraints, pretty specific, some of them, around the fact that people have a right to be forgiven, meaning if they ask for their data to be deleted, they can get this from any companies that hold their data. They have a right to understand how the data is used when buying a product and when providing their data to a company. And a company has the obligation to specify and to explain when some data is collected, what is the intention behind, meaning why the data will be collected and for what purpose. And that are in fact pretty huge constraints because, well, as you explained, this year everyone is talking about data. And so everyone is with new ideas related to data is about innovation and so on, artificial intelligence and things like that. We'll use data to train our computers or artificial things and so on. But so if at the same time you need to explain why you collect data, whereas you are also trying to innovate with data, that's something where you have to understand what you can do and what you cannot do, and it's possibly very hard for businesses.
Absolutely. I mean, 4% of revenue, not profit, 4% of revenue is a lot more than a bloody nose, isn't it, for anyone that breaks those rules?
Oh yeah, sure. Meaning many of the large digital companies, they don't even make profits. So 5% of profits would be zero. So not so fearful.
So as the CEO of the data science software company called Dataiku, I'm interested in your thoughts and expertise in this area. So in your opinion, how should organisations structure their business data, or to meet the demands of that incoming GDPR?
Yeah, there are several aspects to it. So one aspect related to the right of forgiveness is the fact that you need to be able to trace the data and just understand where data is. So part of it is about cataloging and better describing and maintaining your business processes, because it's not obvious, in fact, today, if you've got a complex information system, just to know where are all the locations where the name of someone is stored. Meaning it's not obvious, because systems have been built over time, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, and so over time you grew some complexity, and then, well, it's not obvious anymore. So there is this work to do related to the structuration of business data. But another aspect is related to how you set up your business processes, in fact, and meaning how you build your products with data, or you set up new data analytics within the company, which is meaning more than structuring the data itself. It's about how you work with data.
So how should a company prepare for GDPR? And when I say that, for companies to prepare, even if they don't plan to collect EU customer data, do you think they should still be preparing for the inevitable too?
Yeah, well, in my opinion, meaning most of the companies that have any international reach, and I mean any company with a website almost, do collect EU customer data. So that's a fact. Meaning if you've got a website, that's the case. If you do any logistics with possibly delivering the EU, that's the case. So, well, many companies, meaning, in my opinion, all the companies that have any data strategy today and have a a data warehouse or something significant related to data do collect some EU customer data. And so obviously they need to prepare for GDPR and possibly rethink the way they analyze their data. To a specific example is, for instance, related to the fact that you need to be able to explain in some way how data is used when data is used to personalize a product, meaning like applying a different pricing. You've got this idea, which is kind of vague, but that you need to be able to explain to an insuree when getting the premium for his insurance to give him some explanation about the price, which is something new, in fact, completely new for the business, because that's not only about changing some data warehouse mystic stuff behind the door. It's about the way you change. It changes the relationship you've got with your customers, but it also changes the way you manipulate the data from one end to another. And so you collect the data, but usually you've got like many transformation steps and operation and computation and calculations you do on the data to get to this price for the premium of the insurance. And so companies will need to change their business process by tracing down everything so that they can actually explain each of those steps one way or another, and meaning tracing back from the price to what are the actual variables being used, meaning what are the actual data collected that is actually used to get to a particular behavior or particular price or whatever.
Now, many businesses have probably picked up quite a few bad habits over the years and still carry on regardless, doing things that they've always done in the same way that they've always done them. So what would the best practices for data management be, and how different do you think they will be to how it is now?
So in my perspective, data management in the past and actually currently has been something very fragmented, and possibly very fragmented between different teams and different responsibilities within the company. Especially when you are working in a large company, you've got some people responsible for collecting the data upstream, then other people to kind of cleanse it, transform it, make it available to the whole group. Then you've got other people responsible for one aspect of the building a metric on top of the data, doing some computation of the data. Then you've got yet another team responsible for using it and putting it in practice. So you've got these many layers to actually get anything done on data. And in terms of data management, it means that you've got lots of duplication of the data without being able to completely trace everything down. And so in my perspective, GDPR put a new pressure on new behaviors, and new practices around data management, where you try to get more an end-to-end approach to data management by building project that goes from the data being collected to the natural usage of the data, so that you can better understand what are the impacts and better comply with GDPR.
So legislation is one thing, but what are the most efficient types of data structure in your opinion?
Yeah, I guess that, one good aspect with GDPR is that this need of being kind of end-to-end with data, having this perspective where you can trace from the data source to the usage of the data, is something which is in fact efficient. Yeah. If it's applied properly. And the reason why is that when you are working with data today, you need to have this kind of agile mindset. Agile being a word that is very often used in the tech space and especially in the software development space. It's this whole idea that you need to build things step by step by increasing the performance of your system one step after the other. And the whole idea of being end-to-end with data and having this approach where you connect from the source to the objective is that you can bring different teams together and so get back into an agile mindset while working with data. The fragmentation you've got today in companies with people having different responsibilities related to data lead to huge inefficiencies, because basically lots of people, what they do is that they work on some data, then send over an email to the second team to say, yes, my data is ready, and it's either an Excel attachment or a link or a name to a table. Then the other team take a look at the data and says, well, I'm not sure that this data is ready yet. It does not seem to be in a good shape. And then they send back an email and back and forth. So today, lots of companies have a non-agile way to work with data. And so maybe GDPR will put them an additional pressure to actually move to a better way to work with their data.
So for anyone that is concerned or wants to find out more about GDPR, what's the best place to educate themselves on this massive challenge that's heading their way? Is there any tips you can advise, or where they can just find out more information?
Oh, that's a great question for which I don't have, I think, an answer that pleases me, because it's such a complete, it's completely new in a sense in terms of concepts. And it's complex enough so that, I think that lots of people will have to read the regulation, or at least the summary of the regulation, to just get an understanding without having possibly different layers of interpretation of the regulation that could be confusing. So reading the GDPR itself is doable, and I think that if you are into any, meaning executive data-related position in a major company, that's possibly something you want to do, just to be sure that you are on the safe place, meaning on the safe side of the law in the years to come. Meaning, what I say is that people doing data in executive position will have to get more educated related to privacy and regulations, and whether they like it or not, getting into law books is something they have to do.
Yeah, it really does feel like it's going to be a massive wake-up call for a lot of businesses. But back to you guys. I mean, at Dataiku, I think you raised $14 million in October last year, and you've expanded your operations globally. I think you said offices in New York, London, and obviously Paris. So how's that going? Are there any updates that you can share with the listeners?
Yeah, sure. So we focused a lot on getting new customers and getting new great people within the team. I guess as any startups, and so we managed to almost, I think, double the team since last time we spoke, which is great. Yeah. And what I think is also was also great for us is that meaning a huge need among our customers related to data science platforms, and the fact that most companies today think about data in I would say a mature way. Meaning, when we started Dataiku 4 years ago, data science was like something very odd as a term. Today, it's more or less mainstream, and meaning most companies do not think about whether or not I should hire a data scientist. They are thinking about, I already have a team of data scientists. How can I make them work with my business people, with my analysts in an efficient way? And so really what we saw in the last 6 months is the fact that productivity of data science is key, and something where we see a lot of meaning, and because of that, we see a lot of traction on the market for our solution.
So finally, before I let you go, if anyone wanted to talk to you or connect with you about GDPR, or just contact you about anything that we've spoken about today, can you point them in the direction of a member of your team, your Dataiku website, and any contact details that will help them communicate with you guys?
Yeah, I'd be happy to start conversation about GDPR myself, and I can be easily reached on LinkedIn or Twitter, where my handles are quite obvious because made out of my first name and my last name. And I'd be happy to start conversation about GDPR there. Meaning, it's an important topic, so I guess that we've got to bring the minds of lots of people in order to kind of better understand the implication of GDPR, and also get a non-frightening perspective at what it will be. What I don't want to happen, and I guess nobody wants that to happen, would be that because of GDPR, companies stop investing in data, or just because they are fearful, maybe delay some of their initiatives. What would be even more damaging would be that mostly European companies do that, while US companies don't do that, which could be even more damaging for the economy compared to the US economy. So thinking about GDPR ahead, planning together and kind of understanding the implication in a meaningful way.
Absolutely. One of the things I was going to say there is I think GDPR is going to completely affect any international business. That's not up for debate. That's just going to happen. But what you're doing there is concentrating on the non-frightening aspects and encouraging businesses not to delay things and actually move forward and just arm themselves with that knowledge. And I think you've done that today in a language that everybody understands. And rather than scare people, you're actually saying, we can work together and move forward together on that. So a huge thank you for making that a little bit clearer and for coming on the show today.
Thanks a lot.
Like I said at the beginning of the show there, the penalty for not complying could lead to fines of 20 million euros or 4% of global annual turnover, which just blows my mind. It seems for the last 5 years, most businesses have been hoovering up as much data as they can, and now they're trying to make sense of all that data. And next year, they're going to need to step up and play by a whole new set of rules or pay a very heavy price. So a huge thank you for Florian for coming on today and helping both myself and hopefully everyone listening be a little more aware of what the General Data Protection Regulation is and what it will mean to them. But I'd love to hear what your company is doing to prepare for it. So if you're anywhere in Europe, or indeed if you're anywhere in the world that has an international business, what advice do you have? How are you preparing? Because make no mistake, May next year there's going to be a lot of people panicking. So please let me know your thoughts by emailing me at techblogwriter@outlook.com. You can also, of course, you can comment tonight's episode and look for the links to connect with Florian over at my site techblogwriter.co.uk. And equally, if you want to make me jealous by sending me pics of French cuisine or fine wines, you can tweet me pics or just say hello at Neil C. Hughes. But that's it for tonight's episode. But have no fear. This is not goodbye. This is au revoir. Seriously, thanks for listening. And until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thanks for listening to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. Until next time, remember, technology is best when it brings people together.